you know what, we won't make it too formal for an intro. So it's the first time we were doing a podcast kind of format.
Kempo for us.
And we've been talking about doing this for a little while and stuff. And I'm really excited about it because you were willing to come out and teach seminar in Boston for us, the Tea Party back in 2020, but we had to cancel it because of COVID and stuff.
The pandemic.
And then you were nice enough to come out this year in 2023, and then you came to New Jersey. And I think the conversations that we had over that time period, talking about if you'd come to Boston and then to Jersey, was when I kind of really realized the extent at which you had trained in New Jersey. I knew you were from there. I knew that you had worked a little bit with Frank Vigouroux. And then it wasn't until afterwards that I found out that you told me that you worked with Norman Sandler, and that's kind of where your Kempo journey began. And that was really interesting to me. And I think it's something that not a whole lot of people that follow you and have seen you online on YouTube and stuff maybe know. So I figured we'd kind of talk about that so that you can share that with everybody.
I mean, I met Francisco back in 93, and also Norman. Norman a little bit right after that. I met him because I bumped into him at a seminar in New York, Manhattan, called the Chinese Wang Kempo Academy. It was ran by Jack Schamberger. So Jack Schamberger had a few people that were lineups that were teaching. One of them was Steve Nasty Anderson, along with Jody Sasaki, who I picked up at the airport and brought him over. So my uncle was nice enough to do that for me. I was like 18 years old. And during that time, I had a lot of the videos that Jody had. So I had the Kempo material down there because, trying to learn the material. I had a bit of Larry's videos, which gave me an understanding of how to maybe understand the principles behind them. So, but I still needed an instructor. So, Jody coming over, it was a big thing, brought me to Manhattan, and it was in there at the seminar that I bumped into Francisco Alvarez. He noticed my Kempo patch, and he goes, "Oh, that's the Kempo that I did in Chile, and that's what I was looking for here. Where are you learning this from?" I said, "Well, I'm looking myself, but this is what I want to do too." And then we met a guy named Guy Pisani, who was a student of Norman Sandler that was there for that seminar too. It was because of that we exchanged numbers. When he saw my patch and I saw his patch, at that time there was a big rivalry between Tracy Kempo Karate and Ed Parker Kempo Karate. Regardless, whatever, that's history. But the idea is when he saw that patch, we felt family. So we exchanged numbers, and then that week, Norman Sandler gave me a call saying he wanted to meet me.
Wow.
So I go all the way to Long Island, to Great Neck, or Little Neck, one of the two, and I meet Norman, and he accepts me in as a new student from that point forward. And from that time on, I would always go see Francisco because we exchanged numbers too. So he would come. Francisco came to my place first in Brooklyn, to my basement. And this was maybe like a month after I was with Norman. And then Francisco was showing me some of the forms that I lacked, that he had from, back in Chile.
Right.
And so he was able to share that with me. When I got to Norman was able to sharpen that up for me and help me out with that. And also, he recognized that I wasn't really coming from American Kempo, but my heart was really into it. I really wanted to learn this thing. I mean, I wanted it bad. Yeah. And so he still took me in and as a third brown, and then he got me from third brown, first black, second with Norman. And then it was during that time later on, through the years, from 93, 98, that I came over to Larry Tatum's dojo to basically, I was with Francisco during that time, so Francisco honored me a third-degree black. But I, at the time, was trying to get a hold of Tatum, too. I wanted to get to know this guy. Right. So I decided, okay, well, let me go to, since I was already going to California every year, twice a year, because my mom lived in Victorville, I had the opportunity to always come out there. Out here, I'm saying California. I thought, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to call this guy, and I'm going to tell him that I'm going to come over. And he goes, well, hey, what rank are you? I said, well, I'm a third, but I wanted to recertify. Well, you can do it here, and we have a test in December. And so I went there. I missed the test that Saturday because of my flight was coming in that weekend. But I still made it in that Wednesday advanced class. So there are pictures of me where you see dreads and me and Cliff together. And it was there where I tested, recertified for my third on the LTKKA. And I met Cliff, I met William, Angela, and a lot of wonderful people that became part of my journey at that time.
That's really awesome.
And then when I got back from the holidays, I was in December, I got back from the holidays, I tell my grandmother, you know what, I decided to move to California. She said, well, that's great. I told my mom, I'm moving out there. Larry was giving a seminar in Doylestown for David Todd. And so I decided to take a bus, a Peter Pan bus, all the way from Manhattan into Doylestown, which left me 2 towns away from Doylestown. I walked, and it was cold and it was snow, but I wanted it bad. So I got there, and when I got there, Francisco was there
Oh, really?
with, of course, someone that he used to date before, and Luis, and what was the other guy's name? Pedro?
Pedro Blancos?
Yes. They were there, and that was the first time that I met them. That was a wonderful experience because they drove me back to to Jersey, and then from there I went back to Brooklyn. But it was during that seminar that I went up to Larry and said, "Look, I'm moving to California, and I really could use a job." He goes, "Well, we can use an instructor."
Wow.
And so about weeks later, Cliff calls me up and says, "Hey, well, you know what? One of our teachers is moving out of the house, so you can rent his space. When you come out," I said, "Jim," he goes, "Perfect." And then the guy that was moving out said, "Hey, Juan, well, I'm leaving the place because I'm going to start working with my new soon-to-be wife in a real estate business. So why don't you take my students over?"
Wow.
So it all kind of bam, 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 worked out for me, you know?
So let's go back just a little bit. So before you met Vigouroux and Norman Sandler, you were learning strictly off of tapes and videos.
Tapes and videos. My background was in Aikido, Aikido Jiu-Jitsu, Goshin Jiu-Jitsu, and Shotokan, and I had Taekwondo as well.
Okay.
So I was trying to put it together by watching the videos that I saw with Larry doing the techniques on Rick. I had my own little Rick, which was Eric Valentine, as you met the seminar. And then when Jody Sasaki came out with the full material from Yellow to Third Degree Black, I asked my dad, "Can you buy it for me?" My dad buys me the whole set, and I was just a monster in my basement, just rewinding. My VHS paid for it, but I was just learning. My brain was just a sponge at that time.
Right.
Big sponge.
That's impressive, just being able to get through that material.
Yeah, it was really hard because I was trying to put things together myself. The Perfect Weapon inspired me really even more to learn, the art, and then of course, trying to put the sets together was kind of hard to do. That's why I would create my own kind of striking set, my own finger set, my own stand set. But through the structures of reading also Ed Parker's books, volume 1 through 5, and volume 2, he was doing stances. So I really would look at it and say, okay, well, let me stay in this forward bow for about 20 minutes. I would really work my stances in a sense, and then creating my own sets with it. So what was I going to do? Except when I would see the web of knowledge of volume 5, there were techniques, there were sets, and form. Like, man, how am I going to learn this stuff? Because I got the techniques, but there's no sets yet.
Right.
But the moment I met Guy Pisani, that all changed. I met Norman, and he took me in like a son, and he really, he saw the potential in me.
Yeah.
I was only 18 years old. He saw the potential in me. Other than the people that were in that traditional Chinese Hawaiian Kempo Academy, some of them were pricks. So, when I got there, because, they were talking more down to me than talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then they will tell people, he's not a real Kempoist, he's not a real Kempoist. Well, you don't want to tell that to someone who's young and is trying to, all he wants to do is learn.
Right.
And better himself.
Right.
So why don't you direct me that way?
Right.
Instead of telling me that's no good because I don't want to do what you're doing.
Right, exactly.
So,
That's crazy, and that's some serious dedication between teaching yourself via videos and tapes like that in the books, and then traveling out to California, going out to Pennsylvania and stuff. That's serious dedication that most people don't have. That's awesome.
And the moment I was going to New Jersey, because I would go to see Francisco almost every other weekend. I was going to see Norman. We were doing Long Island at least twice a week. Wow. He had a guy that was actually how it all felt right. He called me, goes, "Juan, I'm in Long. How can you get to Great Neck?" I said, "Well, I'm in Brooklyn. Guess what? I have a guy who I train who lives in Brooklyn, right next to you."
Wow.
How amazing was that, right? And he only lived in Cobble Hill. I was in Park Slope. It was like, a 5-minute drive away.
Wow.
So that worked out.
Just all fell into place.
And then even when Joe stopped doing it, I already knew where the place was at. So I would take the Long Island Railroad and go all the way that way myself to do the classes. Or meet up with Eric Schwartz, who was a black belt under Norman as well. And Eric would drive me. I would go to Queens, Forest Hills, Queens. And from there, Eric would drive us into Great Neck and then bring me back to Forest Hills, where I would take the train and wind up being back home in Brooklyn by midnight, but it was worth it.
Wow.
And then I would be back and then go to my basement and just train. And then Norman gave me a bunch of the manuals. So by doing that, I was reading the stuff. He goes, "Well, you want to learn the striking set? Here it goes." Boom, 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 boom. My head, I was just a monster.
Wow.
And I wanted it that bad. And it came to me. So, and then the moment I came to California, it was where, meeting Larry and in time managing the studio, it really took off. My Kempo really took off.
That's awesome.
I gotta say, it really took off there.
So when you came to California, you said that was it Cliff invited you to live in a house with him because another guy left out?
It was called the Kempo house back then. That was the Kempo house, right? So that's where Frank Solta was at, Jeff Kalowski. There were other people, Howard Reckenbeck, who was one of our guys there. So when I got there, it was a nice little place, man. It was really nice.
So it was just all Kempo instructors.
All Kempo instructors
rooming together.
Yeah.
That must have been a heck of a time.
Oh yeah, that was just rooming with each other. And I missed the times of because Cliff told me that when him and Frank Soto were there, they were like like in the Pink Panther movies where Clouseau had that one guy who would always surprise him to keep him on his toes, and they would do that to each other.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, so that was pretty funny.
Awesome.
He told me, but yeah, we were there, and from there, started going to. The moment I got to Larry's, it was June 18th, 1999, where I landed. I'm here. I lived here. I started. The next day was a black belt testing, where I met Clyde. I met Daryl Liner, who they both gave me a bloody lip and a black eye. Thank you. That was their way of saying welcome to the family, and it was a blessing. Like I said, watching everyone, and Larry presented me. This is Juan Serrano. He's going to be teaching with us now. I had my dreads back then, my crazy dreads, and then just, like I said, it just took off from there. I'm meeting the wonderful people that I did, who I still to this day keep in contact with. So
that's crazy. That's a crazy story. Like Francisco kind of has another crazy story, but like. Of moving for Kempo and stuff, but there's not a lot of people that are that dedicated. That's like.
And when I moved here, Francisco, he was right. He was coming all the time, back and forth.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that he was coming to see Larry before I went to see Larry. Wow. I think he already made 2 trips before I made my trip to stay here permanently. And then we were seeing each other, and it was like family. We hang out, we kick it, and we were all part of a big. And then every time I would go back to New York every year to visit my family, I would go to New Jersey, give a seminar. And and then impart some of the stuff that I've been working with Larry at Francisco's dojo. That's really the way that I was doing with Norman when Norman was giving me that information. I'd go see him in the weekends, and then hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what we're doing. So that's why, in a sense, Francisco's right. Norman is in a way maybe not directly his teacher, but through me. Because every time I was learning something, I was going to Francisco. Yo, check this out. Boom, 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 boom. Let's work this out. Let's do this.
And see, that's something that I always loved about LTKKA, particularly with that group of you guys that all trained together in the 90s and early 2000s, is how everyone kind of shares with each other. It really feels more like a family. It's like everyone treats each other as a peer, as an equal, and shares with open communication both ways rather than a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And that's really cool, especially somebody from a younger generation that was coming in and stuff. It's like I can go to Francisco, I can go to Dave Pantano, I can go to David Todd, and then I meet you. And you treat me just like they do, and it's like it's a really awesome aspect. I don't think every lineage quite has that.
No, there are still schools that they keep to themselves. They're not to say they don't gather, but they still. There's a saying in Spanish that goes "junto pero no revuelto," which means together but not mixed up. So yeah, there's schools out there that way, but hey, I give them. Just do your thing,
to each their own, but it was very appealing to me, and it's really cool, and it's cool to hear that's kind of just how it was, and as the culture within, I guess, LTKKA or that school at that time, that culture of just kind of accepting and sharing with each other and stuff. That's really awesome. So you taught for Tatum for a while, and then you went and how did Casa De Kenpo come to be? Because I know this is the YouTube channel. I know you had your studio. How did that all happen?
I was teaching out of a pro boxing supply store, which it was in Pasadena still, after I wasn't at Larry's anymore. And then, Cliff and I just got together and said we should do something with this, and we came up with the name Casa De Kenpo. And then that was a good, it's the original Kempo house where you had before. So, and we said we should just do this and share it. I want to just share. A lot of people said we were nuts, What are you doing? Frank, even Frank Trejo, we miss you, Frank. But I remember when we did it, he was like, well, you're not the first one to do this, to share it, but you are the first one to put it out for free that way, where you're just posting it up, and but I think you should make money out of that too. He was saying, you know, and he was right, you know. But it's just, you know, that wasn't our approach was just to, you know, Cliff was already doing his thing with his job. He had already working. I was already doing also property management. I felt, you know, and for the people back in the days who really wanted to learn this and it was too expensive to learn it, here it goes. Here you go.
Yeah.
I'm giving. Here you go. You know, and I know we only went up to second round, whatever, but we still were able to give a good build syllabus and a base behind that.
Yeah.
With whatever base anyone else has in the school, at least when people went home, they were able to go on a channel and look at it and review. It might, you know, maybe certain movements had to be tweaked depending on what school you come from, but it was still informative, and it was still the American Kempo, and we were proud about that.
Yeah, and I think that you guys did a huge service to the Kempo community. Because like I know coming up through the ranks myself, it's like be trying to practice at home, forget something, go on YouTube, Casa De Kenpo. It's like, and I when I first started talking to you, I said I don't think you realize how many people you influenced in, and I think as many videos as Tatum's put out, I think that you guys have been just as, if not more, influential. And I think you have last time I checked, you have almost 5 million views on your videos on YouTube, and tens of thousands of subscribers. That's a lot of Kempoists that you've impacted. You know what I mean?
And for me, I did it, like I said, we never knew how it would impact the Kempo world. We just did it to share, you know, and the fruition that it's reached to this point, I'm honored to know that that there are people that said, you know, if it wasn't for you, what you're watching your YouTube video, I probably would have joined the Taekwondo school around the corner or something, you know. It made me want to learn Kempo or investigate it more, and then they'll go into see Larry's videos and this guy. But we were able to start that so that way they can see a different form, and you know, and yeah, I mean, you know, to be able to progress the art and the knowledge and to keep it growing.
And that's all the right reasons. That's what
it's about.
It's awesome. And I think that's a big part of why you guys have been so successful with it. And so, real quick though, something that you said that even all the talking we've done, I hadn't realized is Casa De Kenpo, the name. So that comes right from where you guys were all living. Like,
which is funny. I'm not even thinking about it, but it came out in Spanish because Cliff is also Sicilian, so it still means the same thing. Casa means the same thing. And De means the same thing. So that's why we decided to put it together.
That's really cool.
We would have what we would call the Sicilia-Rican connection.
That's cool. Well, we'll keep this one kind of short. I just wanted to kind of, again, I've had the opportunity to talk to you about these things, and I think a lot of people, from my experience talking to a lot of the people, especially from my generation in Kempo, don't really know your whole backstory, and I think it's really awesome, awesome story. I think people will enjoy hearing it. So,
and I share it because I want, you know, also it's good for people to know. The way I look at it, you know, you should always honor those people who have impacted your life in the martial arts. For me, it was Norman Sandler, Francisco Alvarez, Larry Tatum, and you know, because I mean, when they're not here no more, you know, I want to be able to say that now while they're here, because I don't want to be the guy to say it when they're not here no more. To think that I'm trying to try to get something behind that, and the reason is because out there's a lot of people who have trained with some of these great instructors, and they never bring their names up, and for what reason I don't know. But I know for sure that's not honorable. And, you know, when someone actually put their time into your belt and worked you out, regardless of the past or whatever, you should honor that. You know, you should remember that. You know, don't wait till they're gone. Do it now. So.
For sure. And that's one of the things I admire so much about you is everything from what you just said to the reasons that you put out, the content you put out for free is like you're such a genuine person and you mean so well and stuff. And it's another thing that I hope everyone will get to see and take away, even if they haven't had a chance to meet you and stuff. Yeah. So we're kind of sitting in the park here, just down the street from your house right now.
That's right, here in Burbank.
But you know, maybe next time we can sit down with a little bit more of a professional, formal setup and do something a little more. But I thought it'd be fun just to get this out there.
More original.
And also because you're relaunching Casa De Kenpo under a new YouTube channel, right?
That's right, Casa De Kenpo for life, the number 4 for life. So,
and I know you've got a bunch of content that you're getting ready to upload on there, but we'll link that with this video and stuff. And so anyone that has watched Casa De Kenpo videos before and likes the content he puts out, make sure you go subscribe. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe to his channel, but it'll allow Juan to continue to get more content out, share with more people, and produce even more content for everybody. So Go check out his YouTube channel, subscribe to it, give him a like, a share, share him on social media, help grow that channel so that it can get just as big as the original Casa De Kenpo page. And yeah, man, thank you.
God
Thanks for
bless.
talking and
Me
everything.
too. You're
Appreciate
welcome.
everything
Thank you, Tyler.
you've done for
Thank you,
myself and
brother.
everybody.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. All right, see you guys.